moved to New Orleans in 2021, and it was the first time since I was 18 years old that I had an opportunity to go anywhere. I've always loved this city, and it satisfied my two primary requirements. One, I never wanted to see snow ever again. That didn't exactly pan out. And two, I wanted access to Vietnamese community. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. suburbs as the daughter of a Vietnamese immigrant. And for all of my childhood, I was the only Vietnamese student at my elementary school, my middle school, and my high school. Since then, I've lived in New York, in London, in Paris, but I still never felt like I had access to a group of people like me. First generation, third culture, straddling several identities at once. And then I got to New Orleans. I was lucky enough to immediately connect with a group of fellow millennial, Vietnamese American, first generation people, many of whom worked in creative fields just like me. In 2023, we founded the first Vietnamese Mardi Gras crew, which eventually turned into the first Pan-Asian Mardi Gras crew called Fantasia. Some of them are in the house. We attend each other's readings and concerts and film screenings and exhibitions. We host elaborate potlucks where we all bring way too much food. We spend our Saturday nights engaging in our most cultural pastime, competitive karaoke. I've been a journalist for 20 years now, working on stories everywhere from Svalbard to South Sudan. Here's me on an ice floe about 50 miles south of the North Pole. But for the first time, New Orleans has given me an opportunity to document my own community. This past April marked the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War, and with it came a wave of interest in stories from diasporic Vietnamese communities from across the country. These images are from a military ceremony on April 30th to commemorate the fall of Saigon. The Washington Post reached out asking me to participate in a national piece that was document the lives of several Vietnamese people from the diaspora across the country. I suggested photographing someone I knew, Chu Phuc Nguyen, who works with the Veggie Farmers Cooperative in New Orleans East to grow produce that's sold at the Crescent City Farmers Market. Veggie is an urban farming cooperative that was founded 14 years ago to mitigate the impact of both Hurricane Katrina and the BP oil spill on the large population of Vietnamese refugees who resettled in the Gulf to work as fishermen. The farm has provided a stable source of income for elderly members of the Vietnamese community like Chu Phuc, and has also provided a pathway for community members to grow Vietnamese herbs and produce that isn't always readily available. This is Chef Ann Liu, who is up in the house tonight, who you might recognize from Chopped or Queer Eye or the numerous restaurants where she's been an executive chef. These days, she runs a Viet Cajun street food pop-up called Sang and uses some of those Vietnamese herbs grown at the veggie farm to produce her own bottled dipping sauces. Recently, I've been spending a little less time on journalism and more time in the classroom. I just started my third year teaching journalism at Tulane University, and I've been enjoying translating the lessons that I've learned throughout my career into lessons for my students. In 2024, 4 sections of my community engagement journalism class came together to produce a timeline of the Vietnamese community in New Orleans East, using their new skills to interview, edit, condense, and design an immersive timeline exhibition that now lives in Tulane's Howard Tilton Memorial Library and in the offices of our community partner, Sung Community Development Corporation. This is one of the photos we sourced that opens the exhibition, showing Vietnamese refugees traveling by bus from Fort Chaffee, Arkansas to New Orleans on December 16, 1975. For me, this is a great opportunity to bring students into a community that has been routinely overlooked in the story of New Orleans, and to put into practice all of the granular lessons of my syllabus. How can we move towards producing journalism for a community instead of about a community? How can we center the informational needs of that community itself instead of always trying to translate one group's history and experience for others? How can we move away from a model where journalists are positioned as the experts and the narrative decision makers and collaborate with community members instead? This project was also, to be completely honest, absolutely terrifying. Here is a community that I have worked very hard to connect with, and I know so well how easy it is to hurt or offend or anger people with careless reporting. Since the day I moved here, I have wanted to contribute to the collective storytelling about the 15,000 Vietnamese people who called this city their home, but for my first several years felt too shy and too self-conscious about my status as an outsider. I'm grateful most of all for the warmth of the 21 individuals who agreed to be interviewed extensively by my students, and to our community partner for helping to facilitate all of those connections. But I'm also deeply grateful to the 42 students who gave me a reason to overcome my anxiety and create something that I hope will continue to be a resource and a source of pride for everyone involved. The other weekend, a group of friends and I went out to one of our favorite haunts in New Orleans East, a place called Diamond Billiards that's part pool hall, part karaoke bar, and also serves some of the best Vietnamese food in the city, but you all are gonna keep that a secret among us. The owner, Cô Quinn, had just hosted an event with our community partner, and a full-scale traveling copy of the exhibition was up at the front of the restaurant. She pulled me over to the timeline where some of her story was shared and beamed, "That's me." And in the end, that's all I could ever ask of my work. Thank you so much.
Come strong within and it tastes like sin.